and now you are on to the social listening segment, and this is where we get to discuss about what everyone is talking about on social media. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and of course I'm not doing this alone this time around. I'm joined by someone truly incredible, broadcast journalist, media executive, all-around good human being. His name is Valentine Onyeka. He's joining us today and is making his review. That's the grand reveal this morning on the social listening segment. How are you?
I'm okay. I mean, it's amazing how you took your time to this, that. You make them think is some very. I'm just a normal person. So let's go ahead.
There's a lot that I could have even said. There's a lot more I could have said. Of course,
Well,
I'm also joined online by Mr. OBDK, our in-house analyst, who is also joining us online. So, Mr. OBDK, we're not doing this alone this time around. So, welcome to the show. Let's kick off with the conversation that's been making waves on social media. Now, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, has recently expressed concern over Nigeria's low engagement with important policy documents. He said that only about 2,000 people downloaded the economic report, which is the Nigeria Development Update by the World Bank. Now, Cardoso has described this as appalling because the documents are very important in the understanding Nigeria's economy. He also encouraged more Nigerians to read it, although the CBN may not fully align with all of its content. Now, there's a conversation about Nigerians not reading enough. I'm also guilty in that regard, because I don't think if I see such a document, I don't think, aside from being a journalist, perhaps I needed to read something. I don't think I would have, just stumbled on such a document and decided to go through it. So when he's talking about the fact that Nigerians don't read, I think generally, yeah, that there is that, but such a document, I don't think normally anyone would just easily have jumped on such a document.
Most definitely. I mean, Elizabeth, I'll tell you, honestly speaking, if you look at it clearly, let's look at the amount of people who are that educated to actually take time to go there, leave what it is that is troubling them at home. Now, I'm not saying that he's either right or wrong, but let's look at the indices. How many people would you say have been given the opportunity, right, to leave their work, that puts food on their table, and go scroll through those messages? Which brings me to the next thing. What kind of exposure was that information, right, put through? Was it communicated in pidgin English also? There are some people who, yes, they will tell you they communicate very well in English, but the way and manner you cut across the information also does matter. Is the CBN working hand in hand with NOA, National Orientation Agency? What does NOA, what do they do? They help to cut across information in different dialects to people, so people can get it across the country, right? So information dissemination is key. So when you now say 2,000 plus people, right, were able to read and download it, the question is this: were you able to cut across the length and breadth of Nigeria so that this information is out there?
True. What was the circulation like?
Exactly.
As well?
And so if you look at it clearly, for CBN as big at that level, we're expecting them to say, you know what, we will use all media platforms to cut across information. Maybe they did on social media, that's fine, right? But what about original and traditional media? Radio, right? How many TV programs they go to? Let's be honest. What about newspapers? Maybe they did on newspapers. What kind of communication skill was used? As a mass communicator, we always say communication breaks down when the next party doesn't understand it clearly. So coming out to now say that Nigerians don't read, on the contrary, I think Nigerians read a lot. Have you been to newspaper stands on the street? You'll be shocked how the normal person who you think might not be educated, they're there reading papers. But you must make it enticing. Look, in this country, we're incentive. We are driven with incentive. We're an incentive-driven nation, right? Why do you think somebody that wants to cut across information will say, in between, you can win this or you can get this? The economy is tough. Let your information be enticing in such a way that someone who's reading it will now say, let me go and read what this thing is about. How are you sharing the link? Are you using some positive. Not all social media influencers are possible. Positive ones, the ones that speak, volume of your kind of, your idea. So information is
So
called
they can
across.
translate
That's
it
my
to,
point.
the audience.
Most definitely.
On social media.
So I think in this case, it's a case of you saying the bathwater is dirty, so let's throw the bathwater and the baby away. You can't come and accuse a child for waking, a child that wakes late in the morning to go to school. Why do you wake up late? Meanwhile, you engage the child the night before, washing plates, cooking, and child sleeps around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. What do you expect? So for you to now come out to say 2,000 plus people were the only ones who you believe through your statistics or your data read the story, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're saying that your information wasn't properly cut across. So there's a lacuna somewhere. And so if there's a lacuna somewhere, let us start with that. So that next time they cut across the information properly and have more people to go read, download whatever information they want to download.
But I hear you when you say all of this thing you say, but I'm standing on the path that says that Nigerians don't read as much. That's where I am, because I think that if this was translated, when you talk about the translation on, or maybe you are using social media people, are you using content creators and all of that, you are alluding to it, because we'll rather get our information through these platforms. We'll rather we'll rather look out for content that maybe coming through an influencer or something. So it's still saying the same thing. We would rather not read. Like, why would you want to read a document? People would rather find this information through alternative means, especially social media.
Okay. Just to buttress your point a little bit, do you remember how some companies that want to run ads, what they want to sell or cut across might be, maybe not targeting most demographic, but the way and manner they cut across information helps a lot. So how was this information cut across? Was it boring? The normal 15-year-old right now, they're smart and intelligent. I mean, you heard our online guest when we spoke about the jam issue, right? 15, 16, they're smart and intelligent. Already, the country has enfranchised them by saying you have to be 18 before you go and vote. So they are waiting to be 18, for instance. So how do you say, look, this information cuts across everybody? Prepare their mind. Make them young leaders prior to time.
Right. Let me engage Mr. OBDK on this conversation. So OBDK, do you actually believe that these low download numbers are due to perhaps a lack of awareness, or do you think there's a real deep issue regarding trust in such publications, or maybe it's the fact that truly Nigerians don't read?
I don't think it has anything to do with reading or not reading. Well, Nigeria already has a poor reading culture, and it's basically not due to their own faults. And besides, there are some people that read. If you go for book reading, you see a lot of Nigerians still read. But the bottom line is, it lives in a time when people are interested in so many things, and people's attention spans can be long, but only if you can engage them from the beginning. That's one. And then secondly, I think the CBN, they are just, they're government parastatal. So the only way they know how to pass information across is through the usual boring way. But if you want to get the attention of people, you have to diversify your thinking. So if you're going to pass information across, you have to make it into bite-sized pieces that will engage people. So that when people are engaged, then as you have drawn them in, then they'll be able to read the report. But you can't just keep the report in one website and expect everybody to bring their down. You are wasting your time. I'm sorry, but what he said is he's just giving his own thoughts about it. But it's not an excuse. If you want to reach people, meet people where they are. Let the document speak to each people's needs, or what each people are, what the problems are. Address the pain points. Find out what the pain points are. Get documents. You're the government. You're the one that the World Bank did the documents. You can play your own role. get this document, find out what are those pain points that people are always complaining about. Look at where this document addresses these things, and then find a way of packaging it, sending it to them. When people read those things that touch them, then when you now say, okay, to read the full document, read it here. Then people will now, when they see something that touches them, people engage more with things that touch them. You can't just, I just one boy, I'm sorry, even me, it's hard for me to read that document. Just a document with plenty of words that make one. Something has to attract me to read.
We don't even read terms and conditions.
You said?
So we don't even read terms and conditions. We just
we don't even
click
read
on
terms
accept.
and conditions. So the point is, if you want people, leave poor reading culture. If you want people to engage with this document, find ways of breaking it down, such that people see why it's important. People don't see the why, and people don't trust government. So all these things are issues that they need to address.
And
I think for me, that's the bottom line.
Right. Let's see some of the reactions on social media, because we're really listening to what they're saying. Let's see what people are saying or not saying on social media. Naomi's daughter says, read policy that will provoke you more. Any information this present administration brings is bad news for the citizens. It's usually what we'll pay for, or more increment on the ones we're already paying. That's according to Naomi. She's not having it. Jaffer says, make it free and see if we won't download it. You people make life difficult for citizens. If this were to be some sort of soft loans or grant, would you have allowed it to get to those it was meant for? Deal with it and read your I don't know what it's saying. Then let's see more comments on social media. Sportman says, you had policies during COVID and still people died with their money not released to them to withdraw. You all need to build your reputation before you inspire the masses. Is it the increased interest rate you want me to read? So Nigerians are definitely having different things to say. Jen Jaffe says, make it free and see if we won't download it. Oh, that one we already read it before, but then he finally says, deal with it and read your article yourself. Let's see if we have more reactions to that on social media. Bela says, tell Tinubu to read it first and tell us in a live broadcast its content. You guys are setting high unimaginable standards for us to get jobs and the O level to be a president, governor, senator, House of Reps member. Very anyhow country. I mean, I think it's just what Nigerians are just saying is, look, we're not having any of all of this. Tonya says, I agree with him on the poor reading culture among Nigerians. Most would rather listen to commentaries and opinions of so-called experts. I think it's just saying, maybe we're saying about the same thing, that people would rather go on social media and maybe hear some influencer, somebody speaking to this thing, just passing the message across in a different way. That's where I am saying that this same information they want to pass, I think people would rather hear it from someone. They will maybe rather watch it on TV. They'll rather see an influencer speaking about it or breaking it down, as opposed to reading. That's really what I'm still with Mr. Olayemi Kadoso on the fact that people do not like to read.
I mean, let's be honest. You might say we agree to disagree, but when you say people don't like to read, I mean, like our good analyst there said, what manner, how you couldn't across this information? You just throw it out as in any website at all and hoping that someone will just bump into it and say, oh, quite interesting, let's go and see what it's about. No. If it is that important of an information, then let it be an information. And information comes with different styles to make it quite impactful. Otherwise, you end up having this kind of, breakdown again, saying 2,000 people or less downloaded or read it. Like I said, look, CBN is shooting itself in the foot, saying that these people don't read. Because honestly speaking, Nigerians are quite hard working and they still find time to follow through current affairs. If it is interesting, you saw what the tweet there said, the first person said, deal with it yourself, which means he's dealing with something. And she's telling you, go deal with your own.
Go deal with your own.
Exactly. So I mean, I'm just trying to be more plain instead of being too, technical about it. But the whole thing here is, just look at where he's also coming from too. If he says that Nigerians don't read, are we also saying that Nigerians actually, are wasting their money when it comes to education because you have to study and then pass exams? So are you saying that, what's it called again? Certificates are just given out? You must read for it. Sure. So I don't think that, excuse carries any water at all. It doesn't hold water. I think what he could have said, again, let's be objective. So I wouldn't say what I think. I would say, let's just be objective. Let's assume he said, look, only 2,000 persons read this thing this time. We know it's going to grow. We'll work on our point of communication. We'll use other means of, cutting across to the populace and then hope that it will increase. Not just saying they don't read. This is what it is.
All right. Okay. I think we have to leave Mr. Olayemi Cardoso there. Nigerians certainly are not having it. Valentine is not having it as well. It says Nigerians read. Pass your message across in a different way. But let's move on to the next story, where the Lagos state government has announced plans to introduce monthly and quarterly rent payment options. Now, I think that one is a very exciting one. Now, this initiative is meant to ease the financial burden on residents, especially low-income earners who struggle with rent. And the Commissioner for Housing, Moruf Akinderu Fatai, stated that the new rent payment system is part of a broader strategy to improve housing and affordability in Lagos State. He's also noted that the government's earlier rent-to-own housing initiative had received positive feedback and inspired this latest move. Now, the state is currently consulting with landlords, property developers, and other stakeholders to address the challenges that may arise, such as payment tracking, landlord cooperation, and enforcement mechanisms. Now, a pilot phase is actually planned for select areas of the state. And to me, I think this is welcome news. I think it's laudable because 1 year rent, I think people are living on a day-to-day basis in Nigeria, so they might as well pay on a day-to-day basis.
Elizabeth, I couldn't wait for you to get to this story because I've been itching to talk since.
Okay.
Honestly speaking, let's just be frank.
Okay.
You see, again, you must apply the carrot and stick approach. This has always been something that had worked in the past. Will it work now? Well, look at the story. That landlords should begin to think about, that's, as far as I'm concerned, this particular thing will favor tenants more than landlords. Right? So if someone who is spending huge amounts of money, maybe even going to borrow money from banks to buy material, to buy, to pay workmen or pay labor, it takes him 2, 3, 5 years just to build a bungalow, right? With the steady increase of cost of materials, cement. How much is cement right now? What about iron rods? Let's not even go to other areas where you have to spend some good money. Then let's not look at the issue of regulators that will come. You have LASPA, is that what they call? You have other ones. You have the ones that will come and tell you, no, this building, maybe the structural layout is not what we want, and there's an X on it, so it tell you stop work. And they don't even know if you borrow the money, so interest is already building. So you see, there are a lot of challenges that a landlord will have to go through to have the structure in place. That's just on one end. Now, you now deal with other, like I rightly said, regulators, people who will come and tell you, no, your building doesn't meet the required standard, and why you build in this area. Meanwhile, you probably have initially gotten, go ahead to do your building, to construct your building. So you deal with all that. And then you're hoping to now say, you want to do an annual rentage or 2 years or so you can make up some money back and pay the money that you borrowed. So if the government now says we're looking at monthly and quarterly, how is that going to favor the landlord, the owner of the building? That's just one. Now, on the flip side, the tenant, who obviously maybe has the money, will say, if I just pay 3 months or 2 months, get in, and then in the 4th month, look for one excuse and
then
go to
you
the next
start looking for another tenant.
Do you understand? And so I don't see how this is going to create the balance. Mind you, on the third part that we should also look at is there's a scheme that says rent to own, isn't it so? Well, let's just say if we have changed as a country, right? We'll be seeing people who actually need these homes they will bring them in and they'll discuss about it and then give them those to be beneficiaries of it. Right? In an event where those who run this whole scheme put their family members first, what happens?
Yeah.
So that's another angle, because
so we're going to find more people.
Exactly. You might not reach the people that it is aimed to get to. And so these are challenges. Halfway, the whole thing becomes a bit shoddy, and then we fall back to normal annual rentage. Meaning to say the landlords will not take advantage of it. Okay, so that scheme didn't work. Let us now increase our rent. And before you know it, we'll come back to the same matter again, where you see landlord and tenants go to court. So I'm not saying it's not a welcome development. I'm only saying we should take a good look at it again.
But then this is what is obtainable in the United Kingdom and something like they pay monthly rent and all of these things, and it works.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to be the one pulling the carpet off our foot, but let's be honest. You said the United Kingdom, right? Look at
some other countries.
Look at their economies, right? Look at their GDP and how, right, it has been structured. Do you think their economy has been structured to favor, mortgage and everything? If so, there you have your answer. Right here in our country, do you know what you have to go through to get proper mortgage? Look, if you approach BOI, I hope they're going to watch this. You approach BOI and then you tell them you're working on a particular project and want them to come and, support you as Bank of Industry. You will have to bring all the documents that you have, including the one that probably existed before you were born. Next up.
Right, let's see the comments on social media. Let's see what people are saying about this story on social media, because really we're listening to what they're saying. Forbes Serial says, let's look at this critically. Will this not make things harder? Most resident salaries are not regular, hence defaulting in their rent payment. In my opinion, they should just regulate the rent prices for now. Cyril has a point. Edo Wizard says, what about regulating the activities of agents and agreement fees? That should be the first step before this. House agents are killing Lagosians. Well, Optimist AZ says, Nigeria is not UK and US. Okay, that person is speaking to me. Monthly rent will only favor landlords and real estate investors, because this practically means you are going to pay more for rent. Say no to monthly or quarterly rent. Well, The Unthinkable says, how did we get here? A country where the average citizen can no longer afford to rent a simple apartment, where landlords demand a year's rent upfront for rooms that leak when it rains. The government must step up. Affordable housing isn't a privilege, it's a right. Well, interesting remark there from The Unthinkable. I don't know if OBDK is still online. If it's online, it would be interesting to hear his thought before we move on with this conversation. Do we still have OBDK? All right, I think he's off. I think he's still there. I can actually see him, but I think his network is a little bit wonky. OBDK, are you still there? All right. Okay.
I mean, truth be told, the second person whose tweet came up spoke our minds. Let's be honest. Look at it. If this holds, it's going to cause a lot of rift. And so the question is, would tenants survive it? That would be the discussion from that time, I guess.
But you mentioned that it will pay the tenants more. But that person that individual is actually saying that it will be more beneficial to the landlord.
Well, again, it's give and give, right? How will it be beneficial to the landlord? Because the landlord knows at the end of 3 months, he can afford to tell you, look, quit, get someone else who's going to pay even more. Mind you, there's something you don't even know. If someone who has the money to pay annually comes and says, look, landlord, I have 1 year rent, he will keep the person who paid for 3 months. The government wouldn't know about it. All he has to do is take off the agent from the middle of the equation. They do it a lot. The tweet said there that agents will use that opportunity to enrich themselves, right? Look, the landlord will tell the person who has come, you know what? Talk to me directly. Forget about the agent that's taking food out of someone else's table. Because realtors and agents play a major vital role in housing and when it comes to renting homes and apartments. But that aside, take a good look at the issues surrounding the tenants also. right? The tenant makes money. How much is salary?
Mm.
If, for instance, you earn, let's just say basic 70,000 naira, and your rent is 300,000 naira, which I think right now is almost a myth. How is this quantitative? How much will you save, to meet up that 3 months rent? 3 months rent. Wouldn't you eat? Wouldn't you buy fuel? If you have a car, if at all you have a car. As if there's transportation, where do you live? Where do you work? I don't want to use the word pray, but again, this country, anything that happens, we say, God will do. Let's pray. You know what I'm saying? So let us pray that the scheme of the idea of rent to own works, but it targets those who actually need it. Let's don't hear of some backyard, plan.
And people are now,
that's my point.
Using
Let's
the back
hear
and
that.
just enriching their own
That's my point.
families and all of that.
So everything here, it does have a flip side. Okay, it has a disadvantage. It also has an advantage. The point is, let us strike a balance.
Right, let's strike a balance and end this conversation here right now. It was it was an interesting conversation, and I know you also agree with that. Like, it was really
definitely
lovely having this conversation alongside you. It was truly beautiful. That's why we bring it to wrap here on the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Of course, I didn't do this alone. I was also with
Wanyeka Valentine.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay with us. We'll have the 12 noon news up next.